How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm great. I just had pizza, so I'm feeling great.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah, we're talking in English. It's gonna be in English.
Yep.
If you had no idea. We're very happy that you joined us, and we're here to help you and ask. You can ask any question you want about the story that you've learned, Mr. Noel. The questions you ask will appear on the side of the computer.
Right over there.
And we will answer each and every question. Until you do, we can start talking about the story.
Sure.
And make a little summary of it.
Why don't we start with just like the beginning?
Go ahead.
The time is like almost 100 years ago, right?
Yeah, after World War I.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking early 20s.
The early 20s.
Previous century, the 20th century. And the place is a ship.
An ocean-going liner.
Exactly. A ship which goes from San Francisco, California, which is in the USA, to Yokohama,
Japan.
And this ship is basically crossing the Pacific Ocean. And throughout the story, we have two main characters. Mr. Noel, which is his nickname. His official name, his real name is Max Kelada. And his cabin companion, whose name is the narrator.
We don't know, but there's a reason we don't know his name.
What is the narrator?
Narrator is the person who tells the story from his own point of view.
Oh, okay.
What do we know about the narrator? If we don't know his name, we do know that
he's very British.
He's very British.
Extremely British.
He doesn't like people who are not British, because British people are the best.
It's a very, very important point that he doesn't like anyone and anything which is not British. And
he was even prepared to dislike Mr. Kelada even before they got the chance to talk and know each other.
Yeah.
What was the first reason he didn't like Mr. Kelada?
His luggage. Just the way it looked, the way it was organized in the room. There were too many labels on the suitcase.
And the wardrobe trunk was too big. And his scent was on the shelf, which implied that he likes expensive perfumes and toiletries.
Prestigious stuff.
Yes.
To show off.
He's a show-off.
Mm-hmm.
He's a show-off.
I did not at all like Mr. Kelada. That's like a repeat theme in the story.
Yeah, he doesn't even have a British name, so that's a very good reason for the narrator to dislike him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
To add to that, what happened next once they did meet?
He's going to the smoking room. All he wants is obviously to have a smoke and to play cards. What was the name of that?
Patience.
Patience.
Yeah, Mr. Kelada killed his patience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He was just about to start when someone tapped his shoulder like that.
He had to put his cards aside.
Yeah, asking if he was right to guess, to assume that my name was so-and-so. He was right. And then he was starting, what did he say?
He said, Mr. Kelada told him, you know, you're British, right? I'm so happy that we British people stick together when we're abroad. It's very important that we stick together, we British people, referring to himself as a British person.
But it's not only that. He said, I was jolly glad.
I was jolly glad. That's very British, jolly glad.
When I heard you're British. So British to say jolly glad.
Jolly glad. Yeah. I was jolly glad.
Exactly. And then the narrator says, are you British?
Are you British?
Are you British?
Why was he so surprised? Why did he ask if Mr. Kelada was British?
I think, first of all, because of his appearance. Because of Mr. Kelada's appearance, the way he looked.
How did he look?
Well, very not British. The word is ebony. Or dark-skinned? Dark-skinned.
Yeah.
Short and of sturdy build. Curly hair.
Sleek because of the brilliantine.
Fleshy hooked nose. Very not British.
Not
anything but British.
Yeah.
Orient, Levant, Middle East.
And even his accent, his fluency was not British.
Yeah.
And his gestures, the way he uses his hands, everything was very exuberant, and he was so loquacious. Everything was the opposite from British.
Not like a gentleman speaks.
Not like a gentleman.
No. So
they kept talking and talking and talking. Still, the narrator does not have the chance to play cards. And then Mr. Kelada offers him a drink, and the narrator was shocked. He was very surprised. Why?
Because for all he knew, like the rest of the passengers, the ship was bone dry, which means
no alcohol on board. No. Why?
Because we're talking about prohibition time. During the 20s, and I think until the early mid-30s, prohibition was in force in the States, which means that there was not a chance to officially, legally buy, sell, produce, whatever, advertise alcohol at any sort. So
what can we infer if Mr. Kelada did have in his possession some sort of an alcoholic drink?
I would say something which is a bit racial, racist, something which a bit generalizes all people from his background with his skin color, that they have what is illegal and they try to sell it to other people, whiteys, Christian, Anglos, European, Westerners.
And Mr. Kelada used that in order to be liked.
To be popular.
To be popular.
He told
the narrator, after he offered him his drink, you can call all your friends on board and tell them you've got a pal who's got all the liquor in the world. I mean, he was showing off. I got all the liquor in the world.
There is plenty more.
And there is plenty more where that came from. Yeah, keep showing off.
Just say the word.
As his habit.
Yeah. No, you tell them you got a pal who's got all the liquor in the world. You just met him like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, you've got a pal.
You've got a pal. Yeah.
Yeah, we will talk about his way he's so familiar.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean familiar? He's not
really familiar.
He's not familiar like he knows him. Familiar meaning over friendly. British people are not used to strangers calling them in their first names. You should call the narrator Mr. this and that. We don't know his name. So he did not address him as Mr. And that made the narrator very angry. What else? They kept talking about plays and politics and San Francisco.
There's something that the narrator says at that point. He says, King George.
The Union Jack. Is an impressive piece of drapery, but when flourished
by a gentleman from Alexandria or Beirut, I cannot but feel that
it loses somewhat in dignity. Oh my God.
You can't be more British than that.
No.
It's not like us Israelis saying, that Schwarze, אווירי דחיה, תראה איך הוא נראה. No. When it's flourished by someone a gentleman from Alexandria, Beirut, yeah.
Oh, we have a question.
We have a question.
Can you get the mouse here?
Okay.
I'm so excited. Asaf Yachatich. Who is that? Do we have a student named Asaf, last name Yachtich?
I don't know.
Oh my God, I know. Asaf, you handsome.
No. I don't think that's what it meant.
Yeah, it's Adam Atash.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, is it my class?
Adam Atash.
Adam, that's not my last name. My last name is Lapid. You probably got it wrong.
Yeah, but do you have a question, Adam?
Any question at all?
Okay.
Maybe later.
We're moving on. Asaf, you're handsome. Okay, we know that now.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks to Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah. So what is it with the King George has many strange subjects? Isn't it in that part?
When he asked the narrator, "Are you British?" He said, when the narrator asked him, "Are you British?" He said, "Of course,
Rather,
to the
you don't
backbone."
think I
And
look
then
like
he
an
said
American,
King George,
do you?
and we talked about his appearance.
British to the backbone.
British
That's
to the
what I am.
backbone.
Yeah.
I don't look American to you, do I?
Yeah.
But here he talks about the British flag, saying that
It's a symbol. A flag
it's
symbolizes
symbol.
the nation.
He's not really
nationalism.
talking about the flag itself, but what it represents.
Mhm,
When someone who is obviously not British
mhm.
talks about how patriot he is, how proud he is of his country, of Britain,
Not being sarcastic.
not being
Actually
sarcastic, very
meaning
proud,
it. Yeah.
thinking he believes he's British.
Mhm.
The narrator is angry, he cannot stand this, and his dislike towards Mr. Clara even grows bigger and bigger.
Do we have a question?
Yeah,
Mr.
Lada
Kelada?
brought alcohol to sell it. No, not really, because there is nothing in the story that implies that he had any intention of selling it. So we can only infer that he wanted to be liked. He wanted to offer that to the narrator,
More than anything else.
just so he would say, "Oh, what a nice person that is. I want to be his friend."
Mhm.
That's the reason. We don't know that he really wanted to sell any alcohol.
Later on, I think Mr. Kelada asks him, "Do you like card tricks?" Right?
Yeah, and he said, "No, I hate card tricks."
Like in the
Even
very,
before
very
the card tricks, he told him how to play patience. "Oh, the knave is on the 4. It's coming out. It's coming out. The cards are coming out." It's so
not British.
not British. I mean, let the person play cards. I mean, let him play. Didn't even look at the cards, and you're
Being so
telling him what to do with it.
straightforward and yeah.
Yeah, and then the card tricks.
Do you like card tricks? And he replies,
No.
"No, I hate card tricks."
You showed
Oh, I'll
me.
show you only this one. Yeah. He
He
showed
showed
me.
me 3.
Yeah.
That's like the best part in the
Yeah,
story.
I really like that
seriously.
part.
I did not at all like Mr. Kelada.
And then when he tries in a very not British way to show him, I think enough is enough. I'm now going to retire to get my table at the dining room. He says, "Oh, don't worry about it. I've already taken care of it," right? Like,
Yeah, I thought as if we were sharing the same stateroom, we might just as well sit at the same table. Why not?
yeah, like
I'm having fun,
nowhere
aren't you?
to run, nowhere
Nowhere.
to hide, no escape from
No.
Mr. Kelada.
I wonder
throughout the journey.
what would have happened if you told him that he needed to pee. "Oh, I will pee for you. I will go to the bathroom with you." I mean, I just wonder. What happens next? They go to they're at the dinner table.
No, before the dinner table, I think there is a part before part 2 where he just describes him generally, saying he was taking care of the auctions, something which is like the bingo game, arranging
The quoits, the
quoits.
ball games,
Yeah.
everything. Why was it so important for Mr. Kelada to be in the center, to be in charge of all the things?
I think just like with the alcohol thing, it was to be popular, to be noticed, to be the kind of person in the center of everything that you just can't ignore. Even if you prefer to ignore, there's no way to avoid him.
Why is it so important for him to be in the center, to be liked?
Well, this is where we get to what we call thinking skills,
Yeah.
subtext,
Yeah.
read between the lines,
Inferring.
inferring. Yep, our favorites. There is a metaphor, which means that Mr. Kelada is actually a symbol. He is some sort of a reflection to something much bigger, much wider than just his own character. He's not just a guy named Max Kelada who looks dark-skinned and with curly hair, who behaves in a certain way of manners and attitudes and the way he speaks. It's about his background. It's about culture. It's about mentality. It's about where he comes from, which is a British colony, We don't know specifically where it is. What is it called?
But we can only assume it's Beirut or Alexandria.
Not only because he says so, because he calls him the Levantine. And he says, Mr. Kelada gave me an oriental smile. What is an oriental smile? Do you have like an Israeli smile? Do you have an American smile? There is no such thing. Again, we're talking about an example for racism, for the way someone from a specific culture looks or observes people who are from a different culture, a different race.
As inferiors. I mean, Kelada, we can understand that Kelada has experienced prejudice before.
Yeah.
Other people looked at him as an inferior, someone who is not equal to them. And he has this baggage with him, emotional baggage with him. So from this point, he really, I think that the most important thing is he wants to feel equal. He wants to feel like he's one of them. But he cannot change the way he looks, and he still looks different. So he only has this card to play. I'm very friendly, I'm a good mixer, and I'm very intelligent. I know a lot of things about many things.
You know what's interesting? I just thought about it.
Yeah.
This story was written almost 100 years ago. Obviously, it was written in Britain or France, I mean, somewhere in between. And when you think about Israel nowadays, a week after the elections and everything we hear in the media, it's quite relevant, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite actualia. Funny.
It is. Nothing changes.
No, not really.
Throughout the years, everything, like history repeats. We always say that. And we have another question. Can you?
Ooh, another one.
Yay, exciting.
It says
Adam Atash, right?
Alma Yehiyeh
Habochen.
Isn't it Bochan? Bochan. Mahar. Alma Yehiyeh Habohan Mahar. Okay.
He's from your group. So.
Yes, he is. Look, Adam, and that goes for the rest of your class. I taught you some words from the first part of this amazing story. Truly an amazing story. Before we even started to read it, I wanted you guys to have some of its vocabulary, to be familiar with the words, because it's not an easy English. It's a very British English from 100 years ago. And it's not the kind of English that you guys are going through when you're on Facebook or Twitter or Instush or Channel 2 or Channel 10 or whatever you watch on your free time. So, yeah, just the words, the last words I've been teaching you lately. All right?
Repetition.
Just read them and memorize them. You know what memorize means? Do it.
Does everybody have the words, the list of the words?
Of course they do.
And the ones who don't show up tomorrow.
You better. Yeah. All right. So what happens next?
Next, they're at the dinner table, and
whose table is it?
There are 5 people sitting at that table. The doctor. We don't know a lot about him. We only know that the narrator describes him as lazy. I mean, when he says, Kelada is going to have it his own way because no one has like the power to fight with him and argue. So the doctor is lazy. And when he said something about himself, he said how I was indifferent.
Which means?
Indifferent, like I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, pretty much.
Lazy is more negative. Than indifferent, but the narrator is the negative person. He sees things as negative.
We have a question.
Yeah, Daniel Vidgop. Okay, Daniel, you do have MADA tomorrow, but you will have 30 minutes in the middle of the day to do the quiz, and then you're going back. I don't know if it's going to be on the same hour of English. We're not sure, but we will let you know tomorrow when exactly these quiz is going to be.
And there is no contradiction between the two. You can have Mada and an English quiz.
Yeah.
It works great together, by the way. You should try it more often. I tell you.
If someone dies, speak English.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
it helps.
Yeah.
It helps. I've seen people like come to life
From English.
from English.
Yeah, from Mr. Know-all.
Yes, yes. True that.
All these technical questions. Yes, באותה שעה של אנגלית, all right? Who asked that question? It's the same, Daniel, is it?
It's the
Is it
same.
yours? Is it your class?
Then
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Just be prepared. Okay?
Ask something about the story, you know, about English stuff, you know?
Do you know everything about Mr. Kelada? We're waiting for your questions. We can
Sorry,
still talk.
we can't hear you. We need you to type it. You know, they talk to us with their hands. They're shouting as if we can hear them. Not in Hebrew. Type, send, then we'll be able to see it and reply. All right? Thank you.
What he
Kids.
said. What he said.
You and your smartphones. When it comes to Tachles, you guys are shouting from your living room. Anyhow, so they were sitting at the doctor's
Yeah.
table. The doctor was lazy.
So the
director
hello,
is...
Almog. It's
Hi,
Almog.
hi,
My student,
yeah,
hi,
yeah.
Almog. So just press. That's it. Questions are also good.
He was surfing again. Like,
You
you can tell by the skin of his color. Anyhow,
So
the
the
skin of his
doctor-
color,
Who's
not the color of his skin.
the cup.
Never mind. Yeah. Anyhow,
Okay.
the doctor.
So the doctor was at the table, and there was a couple sitting there, Mr. Ramsey, and
Mhm.
I have a glass of water too. Cheers.
Cheers.
Mr. Ramsey and his wife, Mrs. Ramsey. By the way, his first name is Elmer. I don't know Mrs.
Yeah.
Ramsey's first name.
We
But-
don't know. No, till the end of the story, I have no idea what's her name.
Adam is funny. I miss you too.
Like,
They become so touchy and emotional.
what's the
at
connection
night.
between? Like, anyhow, yeah.
Anyway, so they sit there, and the way the narrator, all the story is in the narrator's point of view. So he sees Mr. Ramsey as a very fat person and heavy and bulging out of his ready-made clothes, and
How does he describe his character, his personality?
he's dogmatic, like Mr. Kelada. Very
Interesting.
dogmatic. But Mr. Kelada and Mr. Ramsey are dogmatic from different reasons. I mean, their motives are different. We know that Kelada is dogmatic, very argumentative, because he wants to prove something like, I'm worthy, I'm intelligent, appreciate me. Don't look at me as someone who's inferior. But Mr. Ramsey is very dogmatic just because he doesn't like Mr. Kelada being such a show-off and cocksure about himself.
So there is a point he's trying to make during the
To
discussion.
prove everyone, Mr. Kelada is not always right.
It says here from, who is it? From Adam, Asaf Yagazan. He still doesn't get my last name. Lapid, like Yair from the politics, but no relations. Yagazan. Maybe it's from the spirit of the story. He calls me a racist.
Yeah, maybe.
And Almog says, Gamani regarding what?
Like he misses me, maybe.
Oh, that's what he meant.
I don't
All
know,
right.
maybe. Can you ask questions about the story?
Yeah. Anything at all.
If you want to tell me how you feel, you can text me. But now let's use this format just to talk about the
Just
story
don't-
that you've learned.
Don't
Okay.
shout from your sofa because we can't hear anything, so it's pointless. Anyhow, so the point Mr. Ramsey was trying to make regarding Mr. Kelada during the discussion was that
Proving
basically,
him wrong. Proving him wrong. That's
let's
it.
use American English, he wanted to show that Mr. Kelada is full of shit,
Yeah.
basically. Like he doesn't really know anything about all these topics and subjects, all this stuff that he's showing off about as if he is the #1
He
expert.
was looking for a chance to show everybody that he's wrong, that he can make mistakes. He doesn't know everything. He's not that know-it-all.
Asaf, you guys are on delay. Asaf, turn off
Turn
the
off the
lights. Achi? I'm missing something. Obviously, there's some catch I'm missing here, but I'll get to that later on, maybe. Anyhow, let's get rid of those irrelevant questions. That one as well, and that one.
And
Mainly.
we know that he works in, Mr. Ramsey works in the American
Counselor
Council
Counselor.
in
in Japan.
In Kobe.
In Kobe, and the way they paid, like,
He doesn't get a
wasn't
lot
very
of
high.
money. He's
Yeah.
ill paid.
Yeah.
He's ill paid.
It's quite an honorable job, but when it comes to bottom line, how much they earn, it's not a big deal.
No,
No.
it's not. And he was working for 1 year
He had a
over there.
position.
Yeah, and he had to go back to New York to fetch his
fetch his
wife. We've been reading this.
What does it mean to fetch your wife? Like,
Fetch his wife
bring me my wife. I need my wife.
and
Where is it?
resume his post.
It was here a minute ago. I just saw her.
And
What's going on?
resume his post in Japan.
Yeah.
So we know that they've been spending a year apart.
Why this piece of information is important, as well as the part that says that it was ill-paid. Why is it important?
Mr. Kilada noticed, I mean, they had a conversation that something that came up, they started talking about pearls because it said something about it in the newspaper. And the doctor said something about the cunning Japanese making cultured pearls, pearls that are not real, they're valued,
Fake pearls?
fake pearls
Okay.
that look so real that he feels that inevitably the value of real pearls will go down.
Because it is such a professional job
Yes.
to make them look as if they're real.
And if you have a pearl that looks like real pearl but costs a lot less, why would you buy the real one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And at
So-
that point, Mr. Kelada says something to Mrs. Ramsey, doesn't he? He says,
yeah, that's a nice
no, he says, you
That's
take
a-
my word for it, Mrs. Ramsey.
fine string.
Yeah, your necklace will never be worth less or $1 or a penny than it is now, right?
Yeah, he thought it was real.
Yeah.
It looked real to him.
He noticed it because he's an expert.
He's an expert. But we didn't know that until this moment.
No.
With all his loquacity, he did not even once mention his profession.
He actually says that right after he is like smashing the
Thumping
table,
the
thumping
table.
the table, saying, I ought to know what I'm talking about.
And what I don't know isn't even
No, I ought
worth
to know what I'm
knowing.
talking about. This is the reason why I'm going to Kobe, why I'm going to Japan, sorry, to Yokohama, right?
Yeah, I mean the
To
trade.
look into the business of pearls. I'm in the trade, and there is no one in the trade who won't tell you that I know
what I
everything
know
there is to
about
know.
pearls goes
Yeah, and everything. And if there's anything I don't know,
isn't
not
even
worth-
worth knowing.
exactly. And then he noticed Mrs. Ramsey's necklace. By the way, how does the narrative describe her?
A pretty little thing, not a woman, a thing,
Like a flower.
like a flower on a coat,
Yeah.
like a microphone, like a lamp.
Not a very feminine text.
No,
No, not really.
no.
But anyhow, there is the argument regarding those cultural pearls, and there is like a, not really debate, a very aggressive argument between Mr. Ramsey and Mr. Kelada.
He thinks it's real, and Mr. Ramsey tells him, "Listen, man, I don't know about
Dude,
you, but
yeah.
I didn't buy it myself, but she bought it the day we left New York
And she
at a
says
department store for
$18.
$18. So don't tell me it's real. 15. 20,000 to 30,000? Seriously?
After Mr.
Wow.
Canada says, yeah, it will be worth no less than $18,000, but in the Fifth Avenue, anywhere,
30,000.
yeah, up to $30,000. And then he,
You want to bet about it?
yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah,
what
let's
Mr.
bet.
Ramsey says.
Why not?
For $100, which is
Ramsey said, I'd be sort of fool not to be part of this bet, to earn $100. But Mr. Canada said, it's not a big deal for me to lose $100. I can afford it myself.
exactly, which is again part of his show off.
Yeah.
Wait, Adam has a very interesting remark. Asaf, I'll be sick tomorrow. Adam, you are about to be very sick right now if you won't show up tomorrow. Do you get me? I will make you really sick if you even continue to think that you won't show up tomorrow for the quiz. Alrighty? Alrighty. Let's go on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. That was very frightening.
I know, dramatic. Yeah, that's what I do.
So Mrs. Ramsey was acting kind of strangely. And from the beginning of the bet, she tried to prevent the bet. The first excuse was, no, you cannot bet on a certainty. I mean, it's
Who
my
knows?
word
Yeah.
against his. How can you prove it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way you can prove it. But Mr. Ramsey was very, very stubborn. And he said, no, take it off, dear, show it to the gentleman.
He probably just didn't want to miss that opportunity to make a fool out of Mr. Kelala in front of everybody. Because it's not only around the table at that dinner.
Right.
He knew it's going to be straight all the way to the ship, throughout the passengers, in no time.
Right.
That was his main goal,
To humiliate him.
all the
That's
way.
his goal.
Adam senses something, says, אני אשלים אחרי פסח. You will have to להשלים the connection between your neck and your head if you won't show up tomorrow. And Almog says, me too, איזה קטע. Don't get me started. What will happen to you if you won't show up tomorrow? All right? Great. See you tomorrow, go.
We'll kill you both.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. Just like, yeah. Anyhow, so
He tells her to take off the...
to undo the clasp, and she can't do it because she says,
Maybe it's stuck or something.
Yeah.
Maybe because she doesn't want to. But the narrator at that moment felt that something unfortunate
was
was
just
about to occur, but he
he could
could
think
not.
could think of nothing to say. Yeah.
We're so nerds.
I think the only person who actually doesn't really feel that something is a bit weird in the atmosphere is Mr. Ramsey.
Her husband.
Yeah.
Her husband, the only person you would expect to notice something
Yeah.
was wrong, and she was in distress. His wife, something was going on, and he was so focused on humiliating Mr. Kelada that he didn't even notice. Kelada noticed, the narrator noticed. He did not.
He was like aiming for something, and there was nothing that could stop him,
Yeah.
basically. No. So what happens? Do they do the bet or?
Yeah, they do. Actually, Mr. Kelada takes out of his pocket his magnifying glass
Mhm.
and examines the pearls closely. Then,
Why would he have a magnifying glass in his pocket?
because he works in the trade of pearls,
Which means he is an expert.
Yeah,
Or
he's
at
an
least
expert.
tries to come across as an
Yes.
expert. Okay.
Okay.
You go ahead. You go ahead.
And then, what's that noise?
These noises.
Okay.
Just ignore it.
Okay. And apparently, what happens is I'm a bit blank.
I know, because we thought of something actually. because we see that you guys are asking only questions and having remarks like, I won't show up tomorrow, I will catch up after Pesach, and some stuff like that. The next one is going to ask a real question, like a professional question, a scholar question that is actually related to the story. Will get 5 points bonus on the
Say
quiz
it in
tomorrow.
Hebrew for the students who are not attentive right now.
הבא שישאל שאלה שאשכרה קשורה לבוחן של המחר, יקבל 5 נקודות בונוס. הבא בתור שישאל.
וזה שיענה 10 נקודות.
אלמוג says, מיסטר קלדה הגבר. That's not the kind of question or remark that you will get 5 points bonus for, right? Just as a negative example. Thanks, Almog. All right. So, with the bet.
Oh, he examines the necklace. He notices that the pearls are real. How do we know that he knows the pearls are real?
He had a triumph smile, a smile of a triumph on his face, on his eyes.
Smile.
Triumphant, yeah.
So you could tell that he's about to say something. He was about to say,
it was a victorious smile. Yeah.
I win, I win.
I'm the man. I rule. Yeah. So he was just about to bring it back to Mrs. Ramsey, saying to her husband,
right.
May I get my $100 bill now?
And he suddenly saw Mrs. Ramsey, who was sitting in front of him. He looked at her face. She was so white. Her face was so white, as if she was about to faint.
She had a look of a terrified woman. She was devastated.
Like terrified eyes,
yeah, terrified eyes, because she knew that something really wrong is just about to happen if he will go on with his bet all the way.
Yeah. We have a question from Gila Rosen.
Yeah.
Daniel's mother.
Mm-hmm.
הבוחן על המילים.
Without the question mark, but obviously it's supposed to be a question mark. Yes. הבוחן על המילים.
תהיה שאלה לגבי?
No תהיה שאלה לגבי. תן לאלמוג מינוס. I will give אלמוג minus if he'll continue to have those irrelevant remarks.
אדם מפריע, אסף תוציא אותו. לבנה כמו אסף.
I don't get it. I'll ignore.
במבחן דברו על העבודה של מר רמזי. במבחן מחר ספציפית לא תהיה שאלה על העבודה שלו, אבל זה פרט חשוב.
בהחלט.
It's important to know that he works in the pearl business, in the trade.
Mr. Ramsey.
Mr. Kelada. Oh, he said about Mr. Ramsey. Oh, sorry. For the test tomorrow, you don't have to know this. But again, he's the main character, so it's important to know that he's in the British Consular Service. American, sorry, not British.
Anyhow,
yeah.
So there is a bet, but Mr. Kelada lies, like he's losing on purpose.
He noticed that something was wrong, and he thought quickly in his mind, saying, wait a second, she is looking at me, like begging with her eyes for me not to tell. Probably she's hiding something. She has a secret. Wait a second. Her necklace is real. She doesn't want me to say anything about it. Maybe the necklace was given to her from a lover, from another man. And if, God forbid, her husband finds out about it, her marriage is ruined. And at that time, if you were caught cheating, adultery, you would have to pay $500,
which is a lot of money at the time, especially for a woman who's not working.
Or spend 90 days in prison, which is also not very nice.
No,
you wouldn't want to be instead of her. So he thought about it and he said, okay, I have a chance to save her marriage. Maybe I will lose my reputation. Not maybe, for sure. I'll lose my reputation.
He's going to lose his reputation Forget the $100. He will lose that as well, for sure.
Everybody will laugh at me.
This is a good name. And not that he had such a good name at the time, but from that bet and onwards till the end of the journey, that's it.
Yeah.
And he does it. He
He loses on purpose.
To save her marriage, which means that he, at that bet, acted like a real gentleman. He realized the ultimate expectation from a real British gentleman. The way Mr. Kelada, the Levantine, the Oriental guy with the Orient smile, with a sturdy build, who had gestures which were anything but British, he behaved like a real British gentleman. We don't know that for sure at that moment. Later on, I'm ignoring. I'm ignoring. Otherwise, I won't be able to actually continue with the broadcast.
Okay.
Yeah. The students can see that, don't they?
What?
I mean, these questions.
Yeah, I think so. They
Anyhow,
have funny questions.
I know. So that's the bottom line. This is what this is what's important to remember, that Mr. Kelada behaved like a real gentleman. The final confirmation for that part is really at the end of the story, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, something changed. The next morning, after the people on the ship made fun of Mr. Kelada during the night and it was a mess, in the morning, they heard a noise and they saw a letter pushed under the door. The narrator picked it up and saw that it was addressed to Max Kelada. He gave it to him. Mr. Kelada opened the envelope, but there wasn't a letter in that envelope.
Only $100 bill?
$100 bill, the money that he had to pay because he lost the bet. What do I understand? How did he get? Who gave him this money?
And it's not only that. On the envelope, the name Mr. Kelada was written in capital letters, wasn't it?
Yeah, in block letters.
Block letters, yeah. Which means it would be very hard to find out who wrote it, because it's not like a personal handwriting.
Right.
So we have those signs to make the connection that it's on purpose.
Yeah.
It's not just a coincidence. And what happens is that the narrator asks Mr. Kelada, so were the pearls real? And Mr. Kelada replies,
no one likes being made a total fool.
If I had a pretty little wife like Mrs. Ramsey, I would never leave her by herself for a year
in New York,
while I stayed stationed in Kobe. Yep.
Then we understand that she did cheat on her husband.
Oh, Michael. We can't stay serious when you ask those questions, you know? It's a bit impossible.
Oh, Adam is asking
a real question, like a serious question, which is actually relevant.
לתרגם מילים או אנסים. Asaf, you just explained that.
Yeah. Yet I will repeat what I just explained. Only words, just words, the words that we've learned in the previous lesson from Mr. Know-all's text. Okay? סתם נו רציני, עכשיו תדברו בעברית, אל תציקו. Okay. I think the final line in this story.
At that moment, which moment? The moment the narrator understood that Mr. Kelada saved someone else's marriage and not putting himself in danger. Yeah, that was like a British gentleman. Shocking. You would never expect someone like Mr. Kelada to act the way he acted. And
the guy who's a strange subject of King George.
Yeah.
The guy who's how did he call it? Who's losing, who makes the Union Jack to lose somewhat in its dignity. Yeah.
Right.
He is the ultimate gentleman. So he says at that moment,
I did not entirely dislike Mr. Kelada. It was hard for him to say that he liked him.
yeah, he can't. He just couldn't. So the
So
closest
double
thing he could
negativity.
say-
It's like, yeah. But the most important thing is that he learned, I think that he learned a lesson, the narrator, not to judge before you give a person a chance to prove himself.
Isn't it a message for all of us?
It is a message for all of us. Never judge a book by its cover.
Especially for you in my class, all you guys with your remarks, you Ashkenazi, you Maokai, you Yemenite, you Polak, whatever. All right? This is the main message of that story. Don't judge a book.
By its cover.
Do not. All right?
And this brings me back to the question, why wasn't the narrator's name mentioned in the story? Because the narrator is not only one person, he represents a class, a group of people
Like Smith or Brown.
himself, the Smith or Browns, right? Like himself, people who are British, people who are very arrogant and so proud of being British, and people who look at other people who are not British as inferiors, is less important, people who refer to women as objects. This is the narrator, and this is what it represents.
So in a way, we can say that Somerset Maugham, who wrote that book, and he's British, he actually has or had, he's not alive anymore, but at the time, you can say that he had a very, very high level of self-criticism over his own culture, his own background, his own biography, maybe.
Somerset himself moved from France, and he had this French accent, and his body was small and weak, and he was mocked by his classmates about the way he looks and about his accent, which really reminds us of Mr. Kelada's character.
Mm-hmm.
So
In a way,
I mean, he really criticizes the narrator, and he wasn't given a chance to prove himself because he was judged by the way he looked and talked. So most authors and poets write about their own experiences.
Yeah.
Like in this story.
Folks, we have less than 10 minutes, so you better ask some questions regarding your quiz rather than just, Asaf, why are you picking in your nose? Or give us some of the words, or what is it? Leah, you are a queen? No, the quiz is not going to be over these questions. The words, why don't we just,
Okay,
maybe I should repeat the words?
Go ahead.
I'll grab my book and I'll repeat the words.
I'll try to.
In a minute.
I'll remember some of them. First word, I believe that some of the words from Asaf's group and my group repeat. So my group is, for my group, it's accommodation that you have to know. No. There is one question here that I want to relate to. לאה, 5 שאלות שנתת לנו בשיעור ואמרת שיהיו בשיעור. הוספת עוד, שאל את זה דניאל וידגו. אלה 5 השאלות היחידות שיהיו במבחן, וחוץ מהן יהיו גם מילים שצריך ללמוד את הפירושים שלהם, ואלה המילים שאני אומרת גם עכשיו, ומאז כבר הכתבתי אותם. אז אם מישהו יכול להיות חבר ולהביא לדניאל את המילים, זה יהיה נחמד. זה לא הכתבה, זה רק knowing the translation.
So,
okay, and
for those of
Daniel is continuing ואמרת שהם יהיו במבחן. Ken, all the words that I told you will be in the test tomorrow. 15 words that I gave you. Okay? What are the words?
For those of you who weren't in the first quiz that I did for my class, okay? There are at least 3 or 4 of you. So here's your chance. The words are dislike, portholes, birth.
Birth, לידה.
No.
No.
Birth, מיטה, okay? Accommodation, cabin, companion. Anything else? Luggage, suitcase, pack. That should be enough, right?
Yeah.
I think that should be enough.
Yeah.
What else?
Danielle is asking,
Mhm.
the words, אתה שאלת, צריך לתרגם אותם לעברית או לאנגלית. The words are presented, are given to you in English. You have to translate them to Hebrew. That's it. Okay? If you don't have other questions, I think we're done.
That should be it.
And we hope that it helped and you still have a chance to grab the book and read it quickly.
Never too late.
Never
Never too late. Better late than never.
Good night and good luck tomorrow, everybody.
Thanks, Leah.
Thanks, Asaf. It was a pleasure.
It was.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.